26%. That's the share of Windows desktop users still running Windows 10 as of February 2026. 4 months after Microsoft officially ended support. 4 months after every tech publication said they would upgrade or migrate. 4 months after the deadline that was supposed to end this. 26% of the Windows desktop market is still hundreds of millions of computers, and every single one of them is now on borrowed time. Microsoft's Consumer Extended Security Updates program, the $30 lifeline keeping these machines protected, ends on October 13, 2026. That's 6 months from now. After that date, no more patches, no more fixes, no more protection, not for any price. The largest group of unsupported computers in history is about to get larger, and almost nobody is talking about what happens next. Let's start with where things actually stand because the numbers have shifted dramatically since October 2025. When Windows 10 support ended on October 14, 2025, StatCounter data showed Windows 10 commanding over 60% of the desktop Windows market. Windows 11 was sitting around 37%. Microsoft had internally projected 65% Windows 11 adoption by that point. The gap between projection and reality was a 28 percentage point miss. That was the moment everyone called the largest user revolt in the history of personal computing. But here's what happened next. By December 2025, Windows 11 had climbed to roughly 50%. By February 2026, it hit 72.57%. Windows 10 dropped to 26.45%. The migration finally happened, but not the way Microsoft planned. It happened because people had no choice. Windows 10 machines started displaying warnings. Security updates stopped arriving. The pressure became impossible to ignore. Steam's hardware survey tells a similar story. Windows 11 sits at 56% of Steam users. Windows 10 holds at 40%. Gamers, historically the most stubborn user base, are finally moving. But 26% is not zero. And 26% of the Windows desktop market represents an enormous number of machines. Microsoft's 2022 annual report stated that over 1.4 billion devices were running Windows 10 or Windows 11. By 2025, estimates suggest that number dropped to around 1 billion, a loss of 400 million active Windows devices in 3 years. If 26% of the remaining Windows desktop base is still on Windows 10, we're talking about somewhere between 250 and 350 million computers worldwide. Machines in homes, small businesses, schools, government offices, machines that work fine, machines whose owners looked at Windows 11's requirements and said no. These aren't confused users who missed the memo, these are people who made a decision. And now that decision has a deadline. Microsoft's Extended Security Updates program is the bridge they built for users who couldn't or wouldn't upgrade. But it's a bridge with a toll, and the toll gets expensive fast. For consumers, home users running Windows 10, Home or Pro, the ESU program offers 3 enrollment options. Option 1, free, if you sync your PC settings to a Microsoft account. Your data goes to Microsoft's cloud, you stay protected. Option 2, redeem 1,000 Microsoft Rewards points. That's roughly $1 worth of points if you've been collecting them through Bing searches and purchases. Option 3, pay $30 one time. That covers you through October 13, 2026. For users in the European Economic Area, Microsoft was forced to offer ESU for free without the cloud sync requirement, a concession made after regulatory pressure. European users just need to sign in with a Microsoft account every 60 days. The consumer program sounds reasonable until you realize it's a 1-year bridge. October 2026 is the end. No renewal option, no year 2. After that date, consumer Windows 10 devices receive nothing. Enterprise pricing tells a different story. For businesses running Windows 10, professional or enterprise, the ESU program costs $61 per device for year 1. That's not a typo. $61 per machine, per year, just to receive security patches for an operating system they already own. Year 2 doubles to $122 per device. Year 3 doubles again to $244 per device. If you're a business with 1,000 Windows 10 machines and you want to stay protected through October 2028, the maximum ESU coverage period, you're looking at $61,000 for year 1, $122,000 for year 2, and $244,000 for year 3. That's $427,000 to delay a migration you'll eventually have to make anyway. Microsoft designed this pricing to make one thing clear. ESU is not a long-term solution. It's a penalty for not upgrading. The program operates on a principle Microsoft calls cumulative licensing. If you decide to enroll in year 2, you have to pay for year 1 as well. Miss the window, pay double. Wait longer, pay more. For organizations with tight budgets, schools, nonprofits, small municipalities, this pricing is effectively a mandate. Upgrade now or face escalating costs that will eventually force you to upgrade anyway. There's a discount for organizations using Microsoft Intune or Windows Auto Patch, $45 per device instead of $61. But that discount requires being deeper in Microsoft's ecosystem, trading one dependency for another. The message is clear. Microsoft will let you stay on Windows 10, but they'll make you pay for the privilege. And for consumers, even paying won't help after October 2026. Understanding why 26% of Windows users are still on Windows 10 requires understanding what they were asked to upgrade to. The hardware requirements came first. Windows 11 requires TPM 2.0, a security chip that only became standard in machines built after 2016. It requires secure boot, UEFI firmware, a minimum of 4 GB RAM, 64 GB storage, and a processor no older than Intel's 8th generation or AMD's Ryzen 2000 series. On paper, these requirements sound like reasonable security improvements. In practice, they blocked approximately 240 million perfectly functional computers from upgrading. Machines from 2015, 2016, 2017, computers running creative software, handling business accounting, playing modern games, were declared incompatible overnight. Not broken, not slow, incompatible by a rule Microsoft wrote. Analysts at Canalys confirmed the number. 240 million PCs pushed toward replacement. If you stacked those machines as folded laptops, the pile would reach higher than the International Space Station's orbit. The forced Microsoft account came next. Windows 11 requires a Microsoft account and internet connection to complete initial setup. The local account option, something Windows users had for 3 decades, was buried behind deliberate friction. When users found workarounds, Microsoft patched them out. The bypass commands disappeared. Third-party tools like Rufus started getting blocked. Pete Bittard, the developer who built Rufus, stated publicly that blocking scripted requests while allowing browser downloads requires specific configuration. That's not a bug. That's a policy decision. Every user forced through a Microsoft account during setup becomes a Microsoft 365 subscriber target, a OneDrive storage customer, an advertising metric because Windows 11 serves ads now. In the Start menu, in File Explorer, on the lock screen, you paid for the hardware, Microsoft is still selling to you on it. Then came Copilot after Microsoft's $13 billion investment in OpenAI. The pressure to show Wall Street a return was real. The result was AI embedded into Notepad, Paint, File Explorer, Settings, and the taskbar simultaneously. No clean way to remove it. No opt-out that actually works. Enterprise security teams discovered that Copilot operates with full user-level permissions. If an employee can access salary databases or confidential contracts, so can the AI assistant. The U.S. House of Representatives banned Copilot from all congressional devices after their own cybersecurity office concluded it posed an unacceptable risk. Each of these decisions, hardware lockout, forced accounts, advertising integration, AI surveillance, pushed users to make a calculation. Is upgrading worth it? For 26% of Windows users, the answer was no. They decided that running unsupported software with no security patches was preferable to accepting what Windows 11 had become. That's not laziness. That's not confusion. That's a verdict. The users who refused to upgrade didn't disappear. They went somewhere. Zorin OS 18 launched on October 14, 2025, the same day Windows 10 support ended. That timing was intentional. Within 3 months, Zorin crossed 2 million downloads. More than 75% of those downloads came from Windows machines. That's 1.5 million Windows users who downloaded a Linux distribution specifically designed to look and feel like the operating system they were leaving. The Start menu opens the way they remember. The taskbar is where they expect it. The system tray works. 0 ads, no forced account, no AI watching their screen. Zorin runs on every machine Windows 11 rejected. No TPM 2.0 requirement, no hardware gatekeeping. A computer Microsoft declared obsolete can have Zorin running within an hour. Zorin isn't alone. Linux desktop market share hit 4.7% globally in early 2026, up from 2.76% in 2022. That's a 70% increase in 3.5 years. Still small in absolute terms, but the trajectory matters. Steam gaming on Linux reached 3.58% of users, an all-time high. More importantly, 89.7% of Windows games now run on Linux through Valve's Proton compatibility layer. The Steam Deck put a Linux computer in the hands of millions of gamers who had never thought about operating systems. Those users discovered their entire game library worked, sometimes faster than on Windows. Governments are moving too. Germany's Schleswig-Holstein announced migration of 30,000 government computers off Microsoft entirely. The project is underway. LibreOffice replaces Microsoft Office. Linux replaces Windows. The goal is complete independence from Microsoft's ecosystem. France's National Gendarmerie already runs 103,164 machines on Linux. They reported a 40% reduction in total cost of ownership. That's not ideology, and that's procurement math. The Netherlands evaluated Windows 11 for 200,000 government computers. They chose Ubuntu instead. 150 million euros that went to free software rather than Microsoft licensing. Germany awarded a 500 million euro government desktop contract to a Linux consortium. Microsoft didn't make the shortlist. France chose open source solutions for an 800 million euro consolidated government IDT project, a contract Microsoft was widely expected to win. These aren't experiments. These are production deployments at national scale. Organizations that had been loyal Microsoft customers for decades are concluding that the cost, complexity, and control concerns of Windows 11 outweigh the switching costs of migration. The pattern is clear. Users who can't upgrade are finding alternatives. Users who won't upgrade are finding alternatives. The only question is how many more will follow before October 2026. October 13th, 2026 is 6 months away. On that date, the consumer ESU program ends. No extension has been announced. No Year 2 option exists for home users. After October 2026, every Windows 10 consumer device becomes permanently unsupported. Every vulnerability discovered from that point forward stays open. Every security researcher who finds a flaw in Windows 10 knows it will never be patched for hundreds of millions of machines. This creates a target-rich environment that hasn't existed since Windows XP's extended support ended in 2014, except the scale is larger. The devices are more connected. The data they contain is more valuable. Windows 10 machines will still boot. They'll still run software. They'll still connect to the internet, but they'll be doing so with an attack surface that grows larger every month. For enterprises, the cliff is further out, October 2028, for those willing to pay escalating ESU fees. But the math doesn't change. Eventually, every organization running Windows 10 faces the same choice: upgrade, migrate, or accept the risk. Microsoft's strategy is clear. They're not trying to support Windows 10 indefinitely. They're trying to extract maximum revenue from users who resist change while applying maximum pressure to force that change anyway. The $30 consumer ESU isn't charity. It's a one-year countdown timer. The escalating enterprise pricing isn't support, it's a penalty that doubles annually until migration becomes cheaper than staying. For users who genuinely can't upgrade, machines blocked by TPM requirements, legacy software dependencies, budget constraints, October 2026 represents a forced choice with no good options. Pay $30 for one more year of protection, then face the same cliff in October 2026. Upgrade to Windows 11 on hardware that Microsoft approved, accepting the forced accounts, the advertising, the AI integration. Migrate to Linux or Chrome OS, accepting the learning curve and potential software compatibility issues. Or do nothing and operate an increasingly vulnerable system connected to an increasingly hostile internet. None of these options are what users wanted. All of them are what Microsoft's decisions created. 26% of Windows desktop users are still running Windows 10. That number will drop over the next 6 months. It has to. The pressure is too great, the deadline too close. But here's the part that should concern Microsoft. For every user who upgrades to Windows 11 because they have no choice, There's another user asking whether they have to choose Windows at all. Zorin OS didn't get 2 million downloads because Linux suddenly became amazing. It got 2 million downloads because Windows 11 gave users a reason to look for alternatives. Germany didn't award 500 million euros in contracts to Linux because they hate Microsoft. They did it because the math changed, and Microsoft's strategy made the math change faster. The 26% still on Windows 10 aren't loyalists. They're people who made a calculation. The cost of upgrading was higher than the cost of waiting. Now the cost of waiting is about to spike. October 13th, 2026, 6 months away. The consumer ESU program ends. The protection disappears. The clock runs out. Microsoft spent 40 years making Windows essential. They spent the last 5 years making users question whether it still is. If you're one of the 26%, you have 6 months to decide. Upgrade, migrate, or accept what comes next. If you found this breakdown useful, if you want coverage that explains the real trade-offs without the hype, subscribe. This situation is going to develop fast as October approaches. Drop a comment. Are you still on Windows 10? What's your plan?